22nd of the 7th, 2025, meaning therefore one thing. There are two F1-centric threads at which we need to pull this morning. The first of which is Spa-Francorchamps, its context, its complexion, not quite a preview, but one important detail. The second is some words that Jacques Villeneuve went on and said to friends of the channel, the Red Flags podcast. What are we doing? Jacques Villeneuve, the F1 beat as far as the tide must be low if we're talking about Alonso versus Lewis, but I will indulge him and correct him in some instances. In the first instance, Spa-Francorchamps, rain as always, meaning therefore the Regenmeisters in Sir Lewis and one Maximilian Verstappen, awesome, so they do a five-time champion. That favours them though. Maximilian Verstappen, we went through the stats already, as over the last 5 years, nobody has beaten that dude in a Q3 session. P1 21, P1 in 2022, sprint qualifying 23, so too qualifying proper in 23, 2024, pole position each and every single time for Maximilian Verstappen, and you mean to tell me it's going to be wet? Well, that favours only one person, right? Maximilian Verstappen is a shark, and if there is blood in the water, aka rain on the track, then it's a done deal now. But anything can and usually does happen in Formula One. Oh, and by the way, if we're talking about Jacques Villeneuve, let me set the table this way, the context table this way. I was always a big fan of Jacques Villeneuve. I wanted at the time in 97 nobody to beat Michael Schumacher more than Jacques. I desperately wanted Jacques Villeneuve to execute on the promise of revenge that belonged to Damon Hill in 1994 Adelaide. I loved me some Jacques Villeneuve, and he came in on a promise. He was the son of modern day Jean Alesi, of course, Cameron, of Gilles Villeneuve, for Pete's sake, one of the goatiest to ever do it, versus Arnaud, wheel banging settings, do you know what I mean? Flair. And Jacques Villeneuve came in and got it done. And that's why I really liked him. Since then, however, he's become a pundit and a controversial one at best. Never hesitates to say what's on his mind, right? A straight shooter. Some would say a thinking shooter, but a controversial and polemic one nonetheless. Over the past 72 hours, he's done a podcast. And in the podcast, they had a greatest of all time bracket and went through it. It came upon them to pitch one Fernando Alonso against one Sir Lewis Hamilton. I feel like we've already done that. Surely we've already read that book in 2007 when a rookie Sir Lewis Hamilton came in and bested a two-time champion at the time, Fernando Alonso, just having vanquished Michael Schumacher into retirement. One of the greatest rookie performances that I've ever seen personally in my F1 viewing years by one Sir Lewis, Carl Davidson, Hamilton then. The Red Flags guys pitched at Jacques Villeneuve as far as the greatest. If we're talking Mount Rushmore of F1 between Fernando Alonso and Sir Lewis, Carl Davidson, Hamilton, who have you got? Jacques Villeneuve responded thus. Roll the clip.
We'll go back up to Alonso versus Hamilton here.
I will put Alonso because Hamilton has too many downs. Even though he's got all the championships, it's not the quantity of champions. If you look at every season, there's always been 2, 3, 4 races where he was completely disappearing. Then suddenly woke up again and started winning again. And too many of those championships were in a car that, like, even Bottas would have won the championship if Hamilton had not been there. And that put him in a place where he became complacent.
Yeah.
And he forgot how hard he had to fight. And you can see it now. It's a big shock to him that actually, no, he has to fight as hard as he did in his first and second season, because the first championship he had, amazing. He really fought hard for that. But after that, when the car became superior, he had too many easy years. And so he always had seasons where it was, he always had season where he got a few races where it just, I don't know, disappeared. It wasn't there anymore. And suddenly the light turned on again and he was a killer again. And where Alonso is always there. So,
but I want to.
Oh, the humanity. That, ladies and gentlemen, is unbridled chaos. That you select Alonso over Sir Lewis. Bearing in mind, we've already read that book, 2007. And it's not like Fernando Alonso wasn't one of the greatest going into that season. Two-time champion. And Sir Lewis Hamilton, as a rookie in Formula One, first year out of GP2, goes and beats him on countback. What are you saying? Jacques Villeneuve, come on, sir. Come on, I can't take you seriously when you say things like that. Let's listen to it again. I'm going to pick it apart real time because it's techie than techie things.
We'll
the
go
Triple
back
Crown.
up to Alonso versus Hamilton here.
I will put Alonso because Hamilton has too many downs.
That in and of itself is case. Now listen, is there seasonal variance as far as Sir Lewis Hamilton's performances if past his prologue? 1000%. Critics will say, and I have said in the past, that Lewis will take himself a couple of races to play his way into the championship crease. That's always been who he is. But once he's had his Weetabix, as he did in 2007, bloody Nora Jacques Villeneuve, there was no beating the chap. Of what are you talking, sir?
Even though he's got all the championships,
Okay.
it's not the quantity of champions. If you look at every season, there's always been 2, 3, 4 races where he was completely disappearing. Then some.
Hang on. Shall we prioritise? Shall we make? Let's take into consideration the length and breadth of Sir Lewis Hamilton's greatness. Now, not everybody needs to like Sir Lewis Hamilton. Some people loathe him. Apparently, the majority of people in F1 in 2025, as I speak to them, and definitely people that don't watch F1, they don't like Sir Lewis Hamilton. But you don't need to like that chap. You can talk about the marketing, that he's not a businessman, he's a businessman. The F1 movie is doing gangbusters things, and he has a part to play in that. A rising Sir Lewis Hamilton marketing tide floats all F1 boats. But sack that off for a second. I'm not necessarily that interested nor invested in that. I want to talk about performance. 7-time champion. Who's done that? Not named Michael Schumacher or Sir Lewis Hamilton. This is rarefied air, historically rarefied air that Sir Lewis Hamilton is breathing. So you want to put some respect on his name, Jacques Villeneuve, talking about it's not the amount of championships that he's. What are you What is it about then, Jacques Villeneuve? What are we doing? Sometimes you've got to call out some abbots of unreason for disbelieving the evidence, choosing to disbelieve the evidence of their own eyes and ears, that there is a seasonal variance in Sir Lewis Hamilton's performance historically, surely cannot counteract, barely partially offsets the fact that he's a record-breaking, unprecedented accolade driver, because he has 7 championships, the most race wins, the most poles, the most as near as makes no difference, every single thing in Formula 1. It's time to put. I understand that this happens when the F1 news beat does one of these and people need to talk about Lewis versus Alonso. I get it. There is monetization in this. But shoot straight, Jacques Villeneuve. You've made a career, no, an industry out of doing it. And now you want to close your eyes, disbelieve the evidence of your own eyes and ears at the altar of Lewis Hamilton criticism. How very dare you, sir?
It's not the quantity of champions. If you look at every season, there's always been 2, 3, 4 races where he was completely disappearing. Then suddenly woke up again and started winning again. And too many of those championships won a card.
The disrespect. And so he woke up again and started with. Yeah, there is volatility, but sometimes brilliance comes with the mercurial now. I mean, he's got 7 championships. If you want to talk consistency, talk about that, surely, Jacques Villeneuve, 1-time champion, man who said to his teammate, why don't we go flat through Eau Rouge? And when he crashed, you went and did exactly the same thing. What are we talking about? Consistency, Jacques Villeneuve. How very dare you?
That, like, even Bottas would have won the championship if Hamilton had not been there.
Don't do it, Jacques. Don't do it. We will withdraw your F1 pimp card. I promise you, even Valtteri Bottas would have won all those championships. Well, I'm not so sure about that, chap. I'm not so sure. So dominant was the W11, the Mercedes through 2014 and 2020. You think Valtteri Bottas single-handedly would have won all those championships? Not with Lewis Hamilton in the other car, Jacques Villeneuve. And that's evidence-based.
And that put him in a place where he became complacent.
Yeah.
And he forgot how hard he had to fight. And you can see it now.
Oh, the humanity. Oh, the disrespect that Lewis Hamilton forgot how hard he needed to fight. I understand why he says that, but surely the evidence proves that to be to be false. That's F1 baloney. Jacques Villeneuve, look, if you win 7 championships, surely you don't just forget how to fight. This happened to you, Jacques Villeneuve, at a certain point, earlier than most people anticipated. You lost yourself a 10th at the altar of age. For the avoidance of doubt, Father Time is undefeated, undisputed, pound for pound, has never lost a round. You yourself, Jacques Villeneuve, are evidence of this. So how very dare you pretend as if you don't have any knowledge of?
It's a big shock to him that actually, no, he has to fight as hard as he did in his first and second season, because the first championship he had, amazing. He really fought hard for that. But after that, when the car became superior, he had too many easy years. And so he always had seasons where he was he always had season where he got a few races where he just, I don't know, disappeared, wasn't there anymore, and suddenly the light turned on again, and he was a killer again. And where Alonso is always there. So,
but I want to.
We'll go back up to Alonso versus Hamilton here.
I will put Alonso.
I can't even listen to it again. He has forgotten how to count to 7. Max, he never knew how to count to 7. He barely knew how to count to 1. And it gets techier than techie things, because the guys, friends of the channel, the Red Flags co-host, push back and say, well, what about that Fernando Alonso decision making? As brilliant as he is a driver in the car, he's made some decisions, and his career, the downside that so characterises his career, has been by dint of that moving to McLaren and away from McLaren at the wrong time. Renault so too. Again, he's a brilliant driver. I rate Alonso very high. You know this already. 200 level race IQ, Fermat's last theorem in that cockpit. But he's made some bad decisions, and his career has suffered for that. You can't argue against that with a straight face. Surely, Jacques? Surely. Roll the clip.
I'm more than happy for you to pick Alonso, and that's going to help.
I'm happy to upset you.
I'm happy. No, I love Alonso. I guess, but part of Alonso's problem was that, there's part of this game is, part of this game is the choosing the right team, making the right decision. And I mean, isn't that
he's been bad at that?
He's been bad at that. Hamilton's made the right choices at the right time.
Yeah, but at the same time, there was no way of knowing that Mercedes would have that engine. That was so much above the rest. So that was a gamble.
Yeah.
Do you see what we're doing here, chat? With the avoidance of doubt, whatever you think about Lewis Hamilton, love or loathe him, what we will never do is sacrifice truth, value and objectivity at the altar of any cognitive dissonance worthy of the moniker. Don't give praise for fluke and then discredit it for design. What are you talking about, Jacques Villeneuve? Yeah, of course he took a risk. And F1 muggles, B-spec F1 minds like myself, thought Lewis Hamilton at the time had gone insane to leave a proper racing team like McLaren and go to a rookie team like Mercedes. This makes no sense. You stick with McLaren. There is heritage and legacy in there. If you want to optimise for your probability of legacy and winning races and therefore championships over the course of your career, then what you don't do is leave McLaren and go to Mercedes. Everybody said that at the time. It was nonsense. It felt like a bad decision. Don't attribute that, though, to fluke, Jacques Villeneuve. It was a good decision, and the hindsight makes that so. History will make a mug of you, Jacques Villeneuve, and me, and anybody else who said that Lewis was making a poor decision. It's techier than techie things, that, for Jacques Villeneuve to say, yeah, well, anybody, he's rolled the dice and he's rolled a couple of sixes. Well, I think there was good judgment in there, Jacques Villeneuve, and that you choose to discredit Lewis Hamilton, claiming that he got lucky, he won the lottery, he rolled a pair of sixes. I don't know. I feel like that's a you problem, Jacques Villeneuve. It reveals more about you than it does Lewis Hamilton's process. Please continue.
That was a big gamble, and it worked out. Alonso got close twice to winning with Ferrari, like until the last race.
Yes.
Right.
That little difference would have made the world. So when they were teammates at McLaren, in the end, he outdid Hamilton, even though it was Hamilton's first season.
Excuse me? Who outdid Hamilton? Maybe that's a slip of the tongue, lost in translation maybe, but as I recall it, Lewis Hamilton beat Fernando Alonso in that first season on countback. Yeah, they finished on the same points. But what are you talking about, Jacques Villeneuve? Who outdid Lewis Hamilton in that first season? There was no one apart from a chap called Kimi Raikkonen in a Scuderia Ferrari stuck in the back door.
So, he's not great at choosing his teams, and he's very good at making enemies, even within teams. But as a driver, he's always on it.
This is techier than techie things. My conscience can't tolerate it. My shoulders are not sufficiently robust to tolerate such F1 blasphemy from one-time champion, the one that they call Jacques Villeneuve. Here you go. Here's the next one.
What are you going to say to the fans that go, but in 07 he beat him on countback, and he on his rookie year they were teammates, and he beat him on
but you also have to take into account that McLaren signed him, or Ron Dennis signed him.
Yeah.
as a double world champion. Needed him for the sponsors and all that.
Yeah.
Then announce Hamilton. Okay, Hamilton is our champion. We don't like you, Fernando. Excuse me?
Excuse you, Jacques Villeneuve. That didn't happen, sir. Ron Dennis was always of the principle, subscribe to the thesis that put the two best drivers in the car and allow them to fight it out. Not dissimilar to what Zach Brown is doing. And it is a risk, but ultimately cream rises to the top. Was there bias in there? Did Ron Dennis desperately want his charge, the dude that he'd known from a young age, early teenage years, to win a championships? Absolutely. 100,000%, just as he wanted Senna to win in 88 and 89 against Alain Prost, 1,000%. But did Alonso get the same machinery? Did he have agency? Did he have the opportunity proper to win a championship in 2007? I think so. So what are you talking about, Jacques?
So when the team boss unbalances internally the team like that, you have to fight back. And that's what happened. So Alonso was not in a fair field at that point, and he had to fight his own battle alone in the team.
I see.
And that actually destroyed the team.
Go on then, Jack. I will see that and raise you this fair. Alonso was a two-time champion, sir, at that stage in 2007, having vanquished Michael Schumacher, the Reagan Meister, in 2005 and 2006. So what are you talking about, fair? Alonso came into that battle with experience. Yes, it was a British team, but you're not going to tell me that a smidgen of agency and or bias more than offsets what Fernando Alonso came into that team with as a driver, as a personality in 2007. There is no way. So sometimes you've got to call people out, even though they are F1 champions, for their bias and their cognitive dissonance. Let's not do that, Jacques Villeneuve. Let's not revise history as far as F1 is concerned, and the not insubstantial multitudinous accolades of one Sir Lewis, Carl, Davids and Hamilton. This always happens when the F1 Newsbeat does one of these, when there's nothing about which we have to talk. It becomes Sir Lewis Hamilton. It becomes Fernando El Plan Alonso. Miami says 2000 season was like a fever dream. It wasn't that bad, was it? It wasn't that bad at all. Lewis is better than Alonso, no question. And that's not to say that Alonso isn't an incredible driver, but bloody Nora, how could we possibly have that argument against the backdrop of 2007, lest we wish to be deemed F1 abbots of unreason? Jacques Villeneuve, what are we doing here?